Yo, this is Mr. O, and today we're going to review and prepare for the test for graphing trig function. So we'll go over with the study guide. So here I have y is equal to 1 half cotangent of x minus pi over 2 plus 5. Since you know the graph of cotangent goes this way or the other way around like that, so there's no amplitude here. There should be none, okay? People think it might be one half, and I'm one of them. It's wrong because it keeps going. Unlike the sine and cosine, they have a distance from the maximum to the midline. That's your amplitude. Here, there's no amplitude. Okay, so for this case, it's going to be none. The period, the formula for tangent and cotangent, the formula is pi over b. On this case here, the b is 1, so therefore the period is pi. For the phase shift, we know that the negative pi over 2 tells you it's going to shift by pi over 2. I like to check my kids for graphing purposes to identify where they're gonna start, where they're gonna end. And please remember that cotangent really start at 0 pi up to the pi. Ideally, the normal way. Okay, technically that's the parent function for the cotangent. But in this case here, the period is pi, the phase shift is pi over 2. That means it will shift to the right by pi over 2. Okay. Another way to explain that one is x minus pi over 2. You start at 0. So you solve for the x plus pi over 2 plus pi over 2. That gives you the starting point is pi over 2. Okay. And then the the end part there, since you know it's going to end at the period of pi. So x minus pi over 2 plus pi is equal to pi. So add pi over 2 here, add pi over 2 there. That gives you x equal to 2 pi over 2 plus pi over 2, which will be 3 pi over 2. So I know the patient is at pi over 2 that goes to right, but I like to say here it ends at 3 pi over 2 after one period. Okay. All right, let's go for the third one here. Y equals 3 tangent 2 times the quantity x plus pi over 3. We know the graph tangent goes like that, so we know there will be no amplitude here. The formula for you to find the period for a tangent is pi over b, like the cotangent. The b here is 2, so therefore it will be pi over 2. Okay, so the period is pi over 2. Okay. So we know that this one here is x plus pi over 3. So therefore, it will shift to the left by negative pi over 3. Or it will go start at negative pi over 3. It will go there to negative pi over 3. Okay. I like to check with my students where it ends. If you know where it starts, you know where it should end. Because the graph of tangent, if this is the negative pi over 3 here, that will be an asymptote there. You should know where's the other asymptote before you make your curve. Okay. So for you to do that one, there are several ways of doing that. Um, if you distribute the 2x there, this is one of the way. This is one of the way. Okay. 2x plus pi over 6. It should supposed to end at it should supposed to end at pi over 2. Okay, based on the parent function of that one. You can use this formula and solve for the x, or the simplest way is that if you're going to start at negative pi over 3, just add it by the period. Just add it by the period. The period is pi over 2, so negative pi over 3 plus pi over 2, and that will give you the ending point. You always just add by the period. Not always by pi over 2, but whatever the period you got from this problem. And in this case here, you multiply this by 2, by 2, by 3, by 3. That will give you pi over 6. So that's why this has to be pi over 6 here. Okay. And the vertical shift is minus 2. So you are going to get down by 2 units. Okay. Next, let's go to y equals negative 2 sine 3x. We know there's an amplitude if the graph are like a sine or cosine curve. And in this case here, it always have to be positive. The amplitude here is 2. Okay. And then the value of b here is 3. So therefore, in finding the period of a sine and cosine is 2 pi over b, which in this case 2 pi over 3 because that's b there. So the period is 2 pi over 3. We're good? Next, phase shift here. Phase shift, we start at, for the sine, we always start at 0 pi and ends at 2 pi, right? Since we start 2 pi, so 3x is equal to 0. And obviously the answer there starts at 0 still. Okay, you're still going to start here at 0. So there's really no phase shift here. There's no movement of the changing horizontal shifting for this kind of graph. Okay, most of the time that there's a shifting if they are in this kind of format. There's a x minus or x plus a certain degree or radian. Vertical shift, there's none. There's no number here, so there will be no vertical shift there. Okay. For y equals 2 cosecant 3x plus pi plus 2. Again, the graph of this one here is not really the sine curve. This is the black one, the reciprocal of the sine and the cosine. So technically, should be supposed to be no amplitude here because you're not getting the distance between the midline to the maximum and minimum. Okay, so none. For the period, the formula is 2 pi over, no, no, 2 pi over b. In this case, the b is 3. So it's going to be 2 pi over 3. Okay. Now, for the vertical shift, there are two ways here. Okay. Phase shift, I mean, phase shift, phase shift. Again, one way is to set the cosecant, which is the reciprocal sign, will start at 0 pi. That's where it starts. 3x plus pi starts at the 0 pi because the cosecant is at sign. Um, so in that case, you start at 0. So this will be 3x equals negative pi divided by 3. So start at negative pi over 3. So that's your starting point. So that means you're going to shift the left at negative pi over 3. Okay, that's a starting point. Okay, another way of doing that one is you factor out the 3 here to make this equal to 1. If you factor that out, that gives you x plus pi over 3. So then that tells you that it's going to the left by negative pi over 3. Okay, and the vertical shift is just up by 2. Okay, very simple. All right, let's go to the graphing. Let's graph this y equals negative 2 cosine x plus pi over 4. The amplitude, since it's a sine and cosine curve, the amplitude here is 2. It's always positive. Period here, we know the formula is 2 pi over b, and the b here is 1 because that's 1 there. So therefore, the period is 2 pi. The phase shift is where you start. Since this is x plus pi over 4, you go to the left by at negative pi over 4. You shift it to the left to the negative pi over 4. Okay, so the negative pi over 4 is the starting point. And those people who don't get that one, here's what you do: x plus pi over 4, set it equal to the starting point. The starting point of cosine is at 0. Move this one to the left, and that will give you x equal to negative pi over 4. And how does it end? The best way to find the ending is that wherever you start, you add it by a period. The period here is 2 pi. So added by 8 pi over 4, which will be at 7 pi over 4, it should stop, right? So let's graph it also here. So it will start at negative pi over 4, and it should stop at 7 pi over 4. That's a one full cycle from negative pi over 4 to 7 pi over 4, okay? And of course, let's get the middle portion of that one, negative 1 over 4 or pi over 4 plus 7 pi over 4. So this will be 6 pi over 4. But remember, you have to divide by 2. And the fastest way of dividing by 2, just put a 2 in the denominator. That will give you 6 pi over 8, which is same thing as 3 pi over 4. So the middle portion of that one is 3 pi over 4. And to get the middle portion of negative pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4, just add them also. Negative pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4 will give you 2 pi over 4. But remember, you gotta divide by 2, so put 2 under here. So the answer there is pi over 4. And here is a 1, 3. This will be 5, 7 pi over 4. Okay, 5 pi over 4, I mean. Okay, then there you go. We have already all the key components of our x-axis. So now we know that the cosine starts at the amplitude. So it's going to start here, go to the intercept, go to the max, intercept, boom. And the graph now for us is right here. Okay. So if you have to give me the intercept, which at 0, no, 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 intercept at pi over 4, comma 0, and 5 pi over 4, comma 0. Where's the maximum? The maximum here is at, this is 2, that's negative 2 there. So the maximum there is at 3 pi over 4, comma 2. The minimum is at negative pi over 4, comma negative 2. And also 7 pi over 4, comma negative 2. Okay. For the domain vertical shift, there's none. Domain here is all real numbers because it keeps going. This has to be have an arrowhead here because they keep going. The range is from negative 2 to positive 2. Next, number 6 here. All right, so this is a sine curve. The amplitude here is 1 because that's invisible 1 here. The period here, the formula is 2 pi over b, which is the b here is 2. So therefore 2 pi over 2, which will give you a period of pi. And since you have x plus pi over 4, another, again, I told you there are several ways of doing this one here. And you can just simply x plus pi over 4, you know you're going to start at 0 there. But hold on. You can tell already that it's going to be start 0. Move this one to the left. So x equal to negative pi over 4, right? Um, So this will be the phase shift here. It will go to the left by pi over 4 or start at negative pi over 4. So when you graph it, it should start at negative pi over 4. Okay. Now, the period is pi. Okay. Where do you find it ends? You're going to find it should be pi. It doesn't end at the pi, but you should know that from the starting point to the end, the length of that one should be a pi. So what do you need to do? Negative pi over 4 plus a pi. Okay, a pi is 4 pi over 4. So therefore, this should be 3 pi over 4. That length there should be a whole pi. All right, so the middle of that one, negative 1 pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4, add them. That will give you 2 pi over 4 divided by 2, or just put 2 under. The answer there is pi over 4. Okay, and then get the middle of those two here, which will be 0 pi here, obviously. And this one here will be, what is that? 1 pi over 4 plus 3 pi over 4. That will give you 4 pi over 4. And then this will be pi over 2. Okay. All right. And we all know that the sine does start at the origin. So it's supposed to start here in this brown point here. But hold on, there's a vertical shift of 1 here, up 1. So that means you're going to start at 1. Okay. Start at 1 there. And then you're going to go to the 2 here now. And then you're going to go boom, boom. Okay. So the graph that one, there you go. The domain here is all real numbers. The range here is from 0 to 2. Kaboom. Okay. Number 7. Y is equal to 1 half second 3x. And here we know that the amplitude, the second curve is not really, is a reciprocal of cosine. So it's going up there. So there should be no amplitude here. The period for second is same format, 2 pi over b, so it's going to be 2 pi over 3. Okay? And the phase shift here, there's no phase shift. Vertical shift is also being going to none. So let's graph this. This is same thing as graphing basically a 1/2 of 1 over cosine 3x. Okay. Let's graph the 3x. We know that the cosine 3x starts at the amplitude. So let's say this is 1/2. This is negative 1/2. You're gonna start here, and the period. So this is 0 pi. It should end at 2 pi over 3, right? The middle portion of that one is 2 pi over 3 plus 0 pi. So it doesn't matter, divide by 2. So put the 2 here. That will give us pi over 3. And the middle of that one is pi over 6. And the middle of that one is pi over 3 plus 2 pi over 3 divided by 2. That will give you 3 pi over 3 or just pi over 2 here. We know that the cosine will start at the amplitude, will go to the intercept, go to the minimum, intercept, and then the maximum. So the graph, that one should be something like this with the arrowheads. But hold on, take note, this is a cosine, this is a reciprocal. My bad, I was graphing the cosine there. So this is only a guide. That's only a guide there. The actual graph for a second, take note that there's an asymptote here, the orange asymptote. Those are the asymptote. There's an asymptote here and likewise somewhere here, okay? Because they are the reciprocal of cosine. So the graph of this should be touching the maximum of cosine will be minimum of second. And make sure your parabola, like a parabola looking, is very getting closer to the asymptote, okay? And that's the actual graph for the 1/2 second 3x, okay? All right, so the domain here, if you know the domain, is all real numbers except the asymptote, which is pi over 6. Plus, think about this one here. You cannot have a graph here. You cannot have a graph there. And remember, the gap between the asymptote is a one whole period. So you have to add a period here. The period for this problem is 2 pi over 3. But how many 2 pi over 3 need to add? A lot of numbers that never ends, and those are the integers, so that's why you have to put an n beside the period, okay? And the range here, you know that you don't have a graph between negative 1/2 and positive 1/2. On this area, it's clear there's no graph there, so it's from negative infinity to negative 1/2 bracket union with bracket of 1/2 to infinity, okay? Last one here, y is equal to tangent 3x minus 1. Okay, we know the tangent has a graph like this, so there will be no amplitude there. Okay, the formula for period for tangent and cotangent is pi over b. The b here is 3, so the period here is pi over 3. Okay, phase shift, there's no moving phase shift here, left or right, none. Vertical shift is gonna go down 1. Down 1 there. Okay. All right. So we know the tangent starts at negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, right? So if it's 3x starts at negative pi over 2, so you know here the starting point is x equals to negative pi over 6. So this is negative pi over 6. Okay. The period is pi over 3. So for you to get the other part, you know that you have to add the period here to get the end of the asymptote or the cycle. So negative pi over 6 plus pi over 3 multiplies by 2 here. That will give you pi over 6. Right, that one. 2 minus 1. Yes, this is going to be pi over 6 there. Okay. And then you keep on adding another pi over 3 to get the next section. So pi over 6 plus pi over 3 again times 2 times 2, that will give you 3 pi over 6, which is pi over 2. This is pi over 2 here, okay? All right, now we found those. Those are the asymptote. of your tangent. You know that the middle here is 0 pi. You can get the middle of that one by pi over 6 plus pi over 2. That times this by 3 here, times by 3. That will give you 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3. So you know since tangent, it will hit that and those points. But you have a minus 1. That means you're going to shift down by 1. So this is the point now. That's a point. So the graph will be getting closer to the asymptote. Cross that one. Boom. Boom. All right. And of course, the domain here is all real numbers except x cannot be equal to pi over 6 plus the period, which is pi over 3 times n. The range here is all real numbers because it keeps going up and further down there. Okay. All right. There you go. I hope you learned something. As always, kaboom.